you're going to do is come down here and go.
Hit the P. Gotcha.
Okay?
Gotcha.
I'm just going to have it in there for full view so they can
So
see
I'm
the
gonna
page.
left click there.
Yeah, because watch, I'm going to, in viewing, I'm coming in here and I'm going to hit full screen.
Okay.
So all you have to do is do like that.
Left click it and then going down there and hit the P.
TV's on the wall.
I guess we got whoever we got. That's all we need is 4 votes, right? For all we need is 4 votes. Okay. I'd like to call the regular scheduled meeting of the Franklin City Council to order. If you would, please turn off your cell phones or put them in vibrate or silence them. And please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance. Appreciate everybody coming out tonight on this nice, cool evening. So we have a couple of special recognitions to start our meeting. I'll start with Councilman Burgess. No, I'm sorry. Let me go this way.
You want to go?
We're gonna go the other way. I'll start with Councilman Cheatham, please.
Resolution of appreciation for Charles J. Jeff Turner. Whereas the Blackwater Nottoway Riverkeeper program was founded by Charles J. Jeff Turner in 2000, dedicating itself to the protection and preservation of the Blackwater and the Nottoway Rivers in southeastern Virginia. And whereas Charles J. Jeff Turner has faithfully served as the organization's riverkeeper since its founding, working as a dedicated environmental steward and tireless and vigilant protector of almost 100 miles of river and the surrounding watershed. And whereas over the past 17 years, Charles J. Jeff Turner has averaged dozens of days annually on patrol, typically in multiple-day overnight camping trips, observing and monitoring and recording water quality, searching for sources of pollution, observing wildlife, and personally removing trash and debris from the rivers and public boat landings. And whereas reports of his expeditions have been chronicled in the Tidewater News, often detailing the humorous exploits of his faithful companions, Freezing Deer and Moonpie, raising public awareness and exposing thousands of readers to the Blackwater and Nottoway rivers as cherished and indispensable natural resources. And whereas Charles J. Jeff Turner has invested hundreds of hours of personal time in outreach activities, speaking to school groups and civic organizations about the importance of the rivers and the local watershed, outfitting the floating classroom known locally as the Echo Cruise, and providing guided tours for small groups and organizations, allowing them to observe and witness firsthand the majestic beauty of the Blackwater and Nottoway rivers. And whereas Charles J. Jeff Turner has worked for many years organizing an annual Clean Rivers Day in Franklin and neighboring areas, which attracted scores of volunteers and resulted in the removal of tens of thousands of pounds of trash and debris. And whereas Charles J. Jeff Turner brought honor to the Blackwater Nottoway Riverkeeper program as recognized by numerous awards and recognitions from state and national organizations for environmental improvement efforts. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Franklin, Virginia, recognizes the exemplary dedication of Charles J. Jeff Turner and expresses its profound appreciation for his 17 years of distinguished service to the Blackwater Nottoway Riverkeeper program, and be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be presented to Charles J. Jeff Turner and further spread upon the meeting minutes of the City of Franklin, forever preserving and recording its admiration and respect for the invaluable public service he has performed. Adopted this 11th day of December 2017 and signed by Frank M. Rabel, Mayor, and attested by R. Randy Martin, Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Cheatham. Do I have a motion to adopt said resolution?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. Nays have the same opportunity.
Aye.
Aye.
And aye. That resolution passes. And Jeff, I'm going to bring this little plaque to you so we can thank you as like we should and the way we should. But a personal thanks from me. I've had the opportunity to go out on the river with you several times. You've enlightened me on several things that we need to be doing, and hopefully we will continue to do those things even in your absence as the riverkeeper.
I just want to say a couple of things in appreciation. I'd like to reciprocate the thank you back to the City of Franklin for 17 years of helping me protect the two rivers and the watershed around this area. It's been a hard-fought battle sometimes, but I think the City of Franklin and the Riverkeeper program has done a good job over the past 17 years, and I think our waterways are much improved in the past 17 years. So I want to also thank the City of Franklin a lot for that, for your help. Russ, all of y'all over the years, and even folks that aren't here, like Mayor Cancel and people like that, they were a big help to me. And I hopefully in the future, we'll get some more things done, and don't worry, I'm gonna still be out there. On the two rivers we call the Blackwater and Nottoway. Thank y'all a lot.
Thank you, Jeff. Okay. All right, Mr. Burgess.
Resolution honoring Robert T. Bob Petty Memorial. Whereas Robert T. Bob Petty dutifully served the city of Franklin on the Industrial Development Authority and Board of Equalization. And whereas Robert T. Bob Petty also faithfully served the community of Franklin as a volunteer and professional businessman for many years. And whereas Robert T. Bob Petty advocated for children through board leadership, education, literacy, social welfare, safe housing, recreation, financial stability, and quality of life. And whereas his dependability, loyalty, dedication, and devoted service to community causes made Franklin a better community. And whereas Robert T. Bob Petty exhibited guidance and wisdom through his influence on the following community organizations: the Children's Center, United Way, S.B. Morton Book Buddies, Franklin City Educational Foundation, Franklin Redevelopment and Housing Authority, the Franklin Boys and Girls Club, Ruth Camp Campbell Library Endowment, Inc., Bronco Federal Credit Union. Now therefore be it resolved, the Franklin City Council honors the service of Robert T. Bob Petty to the city of Franklin, Virginia, and the many organizations and individuals he positively impacted throughout his life. Adopted December 11th, 2017, signed by Mayor Frank M. Wayne.
Thank you, Mr. Burgess. Do I have a motion to adopt the resolution honoring Bob Petty?
So be it.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. Nays have the same opportunity.
Aye.
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 And aye. That motion carries, and we are honored to do that. And I think, Tucker, you're here, so I'm going to ask you if you would come up. And it looks like you brought a representative from every one of the groups that he worked with. And I grew up with Bob, so I do know what he did, and it's much appreciated.
I will keep it brief like my dad would. But thank you very much for this. It means a lot to me. This city meant a lot to my family for a really long time. And I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. So thank you very much.
And thank you, Tucker. All right, we have citizens' time, and we have several people who've signed up. I'm sorry, a new employee, I forgot. I have it on here.
Yeah, Dinah will be presenting.
Yeah. I'm back to.
Good evening, Mayor Rabel, Vice Mayor Cheatham, members of council. I'd like to introduce to you the newest member of the Treasurer's Office. This is Selena Boone. Selena comes to us. She was born and raised in Burdett, Southampton County. She is married to Ray Boone, who is a lieutenant at the Deerfield Correction Center. They have two kids, Josh, who is a freshman at Paul D. Camp, who is studying the principles, technology of and industrial maintenance. They also have Alana, who is in the back audience with her. She's a sixth grader at J.B. King and is a member of the National Honor Society and of the Gifted and Talented. Selena came to us by way of Walmart. She worked for Walmart for 15 years as their assistant manager. She told me that when I interviewed her, that the most exciting day was Black Friday. So I figured if Selena's best day at Walmart was Black Friday, she could handle us at the treasurer's office, and we would show her a different way of life. She then left Walmart and became a teller at EVB, where she was there for 2 years. She was their traveling teller. So we have snatched Selena up from the banking industry, as well as a couple of other people in my office have come by way of banking. She's been an excellent employee. She came to us on July, July. And she has jumped in with both feet, and she has done an extraordinary job. We're very pleased to have her, and hopefully that we will retain her for many years to come. So I wanted to introduce you. This is Selena Boone, and this is members of council, and you already know Mr. Martin and Taylor Williams. So.
Hello.
Well, hello, and Selena, and welcome. We look forward to your continued good work in the treasurer's office, and thank you for joining the team. Thank you for having me. Okay, thank you very much.
She's been excellent. Thank you.
Now we have citizens' time. First, we'll start off with Dr. Ruth Sheffield, who's representing the Western Tidewater Free Clinic.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Sharon Sheffield, and I'm with OBGYN Physicians here in Franklin, but tonight I'm representing the Western Tidewater Free Clinic, where I volunteer and am on the board. At Western Tidewater Free Clinic, we just want to thank the city of Franklin for all the support that they have given us through the years. We're grateful for your support. Since the inception of the clinic, that was in 2007. Since opening, the clinic has provided care to almost 5,000 unduplicated patients through over 130,000 medical, dental, mental health, eligibility visits, and pharmacy consults. Since our pharmacy opened, patients have received over 200,000 medications with a retail value of almost $36 million. Patients served by locality include 55% from Suffolk, 23% from Isle of Wight, 12% from Southampton County, and 10% from Franklin. The current cost per patient per year is about $1,200. That is equivalent to about $95 per visit. The total number of patients served for the year of 2017 through September 30th is, for all clinics, 1,466 distinct patients through 14,601 visits. For Franklin, that means 145 residents through 1,295 visits. And in 2016, we had 139 patients in Franklin through 1,689 visits, so that's more this year. The medications provided for all the clinics, all the localities, cost $5 million. For Franklin, for this year, $500,000. Some additional information, 59% of our patients live at or below 100% of the federal poverty level. And that means a family of four making $24,000 a year. In 2017, our volunteers have donated over 8,150 hours to the clinic. That's over 800 hours per month. And currently, we're recruiting nurses and physicians and anybody else we're happy to accept. The other interesting thing is that we're on the track to set a new record for the patients served. And by the end of the year, we're hoping to see 1,600 patients and 19,000 visits. Currently, we average 50 to 60 new patients per month, and our waiting list is down to 113 patients. We'd like to thank you, Franklin, for celebrating our 10th anniversary this year. we had a June forum, and we also had an October donor celebration, and thank you all for participating in that. Your continued support ensures that we can continue to serve patients in need for the next 10 years with a strategic vision to double our patient load by 2020 and reach more patients in our service area. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sheffield. Next is Greg McLemore.
Good evening to citizens of Franklin. I'm Councilman Greg McLemore, 204 Madison Street, Franklin, Virginia. And I stand here tonight to thank Southampton Memorial Hospital for their consideration on a wreath-laying ceremony for the unknown slaves of the Camp Plantation from Franklin and Southampton, and share with you a letter from Congressman Bobby Scott. It reads, "The Honorable Gregory McLemore, member of Franklin City Council. Dear Councilman McLemore, elected officials, clergy members, and attendees, it is an honor to offer greetings on this occasion of the wreath-laying ceremony for the unknown slaves of the city of Franklin and Southampton County on November 26, 2017. This ceremony is a special occasion because of the display of appreciation that has been shown by everyone that is in attendance today. The names of the slaves that are buried in the city of Franklin and Southampton County may not be known to us, but their lives and legacies are a valuable addition to our nation's history. Their sacrifices paved the way for the advancements in civil rights and freedoms that we all enjoy. Their contributions will never be forgotten. Best wishes for a memorable ceremony. Very truly yours, Robert C. Bobby Scott, Member of Congress." And I'd like to also notify the citizens of Ward 3 of a ward meeting we'll be having on December 23rd at the Franklin Library, and share with council, if you're interested in checking out, Ward 3 has a website now called everythingward3.com. Feel free to visit and peruse and see all of the things going on in the city from the perspective of Ward 3. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McLemore. Jim Hart.
Mr. Mayor and council members, Mr. Martin, Mr. Williams. I just wanted to come up here tonight and discuss with you some concern I have regarding an ordinance that y'all are looking at and considering adopting. I've had numerous phone calls this afternoon, contacts. Wasn't aware that this was on the agenda this evening until this afternoon. But there's some concerns about the adoption of the derelict properties in the city of Franklin. We all share the same concerns. We all want our city pretty. But this particular ordinance here seems to be some concern and also maybe some confusion. There's some subjective language in the ordinance. In a Tidewater News article dated November the 15th, 2017, Mr. Goodwin is talking about the classification of derelict would be different from that of an unsafe structure, which the city already has legislation in place. An unsafe structure is one that is imminent danger of collapse, while a derelict building could be an eyesore or unsuitable for habitation, but not in danger of falling down. And statutory authority for a locality to require removal or repair of the buildings deemed derelict is already granted by the Virginia Code. But it seems like the word subjective and being able to identify a property as an eyesore, that could be an opinion. We would certainly like to have some clarification on how that would be determined. I think that this time, that with the confusion of some of the property owners and all, that it might be an opportunity to get a committee together of property owners throughout the city, different areas of the city, to meet and see what this ordinance is and try to give a little bit of input on it. Maybe have a public hearing on it, but certainly have some input on this because we're concerned about that, and also about the granting the city the power to make some make decisions on whether to keep this property in place or tear it down. Another note in this same article was that should the city not receive any of the owner's plan within a 9-day time frame after notifying them, that the proposed ordinance permits the city to use city personnel funds and funds to correct the problem either by raising or renovating the structure, and then charging the cost of doing so to the owner in the form of a tax lien on the property, which that's already kind of concurrent with the unsafe structures. However, Goodwin was highly unlikely that the city would use its own personal funds and funds to renovate a dirt building rather than raise it. So it looks like it wants to give power to go ahead to the city to raise an eyesore, not something that's unsafe, just an eyesore. And I've got some problems when someone can just walk up and just say, well, it's an eyesore. That's an opinion. I think that ought to be clarified. So I'd like to have an opportunity to meet with the officials along with other property owners. I own property in the city of Franklin, various locations, including downtown, and a lot of work has been done to do that, see what else can be done. One thing it makes a note on there is that a derelict property would be something that's been vacant for a number of months, and as well as power turned off and that kind of thing. There are some properties in the city of Franklin, I won't identify any tonight. Be glad to identify them in private, but I don't want to call attention to anybody, publicly. But where that I can walk down by the street and I can pick up pieces of a building right now. I guarantee there's a piece of it on the sidewalk right now, and that property is occupied. Now, how are you going to identify that as an eyesore? That to me is almost an unsafe, but it could also be an eyesore. I think we need to look at this a little bit closer before we just adopt an ordinance. I'd like to have some input on that. The other thing is talking about unsafe is lighting. Downtown lighting, I've talked to Mr. Martin, I've talked to Donald Goodman's office about this for all year, since last January. There are several areas in the city of Franklin that are very, very dark, very unsafe, and lighting is a very, very big deterrent to crime. Recently, we had a crime committed over here on, let's see, my number's right, 3rd Avenue, where they broke into the Chamber of Commerce and another building next door. There's some poor lighting in that area, but there's definitely poor lighting in some of the alleyways around here. And there's near my office, the entrance going into Walmart, those lights, which was a part of their parking lot plan, have been out all year. And we have an awful lot of walking traffic from the motels going back there to the Walmart shopping center, and it's totally dark. And I have pictures on my phone, if you'd like me to share those with you right now, or invite you to ride out there now. If you ride out and turn at the stoplight and go back and look at the lighting going into on the Walmart end of the parking lot, it's very well lit and very safe. You go to the other one, the only light that's there is just a little bit of light off of our buildings, and that's it. Those street lights going in and the parking lot lights have been off for now 11 months. Okay. Anyway, I'd like to see if you all can do something about the lighting. Okay. And I look for a report on maybe in the next month or two what's going on. Now, I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next is Thomas Council.
Thomas Council, 425 Bracy Street, Franklin, Virginia. A few years ago, I was listening to a speech by former President Barack Obama. I think he was talking to the United Nations. He said that the United States is no longer a Christian nation. And I said, well, okay, maybe he's right, probably is right. But I would like the city of Franklin to fight and try to be a Christian city, even though we may be in a pagan nation. When we pledge allegiance to the flag, we pledge allegiance to the republic, and we say that we're one nation under God. I'd like you to put prayer back into the city council meeting, Christian prayer. And I would also like you to consider that God is real, Jesus Christ is real, and that he wants us to love one another, and that we have a homeless problem in our city, and that we should move quickly to try to help these people. Some of them are working poor. Some of these people have drug addiction. Some of these people are mentally ill. Some of them just have a problem in life right now. But whatever's going on, the winter is here. These people are here, and we should be able to do something better than nothing. The Christian Bible in Leviticus 25th chapter, 35th verse says, if your brother becomes destitute and cannot sustain himself among you, you are to support him as a foreigner or a temporary resident so that he can continue to live among you. God wants us to help one another. Okay? We put our money into the city. and we should help those who are unable to help themselves. We shouldn't just help those who are prosperous, and we just shouldn't. We should help each other, just like the Christian Bible says. And I was reading the minutes from the last, what was it? November 27, 2017. And the minutes said that Ms. Hilliard said that this wasn't an emergency because council knew winter was coming before now. I really didn't understand that statement. I don't understand it now. But winter is coming. People are in need. So please help them. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Do I have any amendments to the agenda?
Mayor, I move that the agenda be amended to add an additional ordinance for consideration. The ordinance will be meant to make a correction to state code sections referenced in city code section 27-54A from 58.1-3320 to 58.1-3220, and city code section 27-55A from 58.1-3321 to 58.1-3221.
Okay. I have a motion to add an ordinance correction, it looks like a numerical correction. Do I have a second to that?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. Nays have the same opportunity.
Aye.
Aye.
And aye, that motion carries. Where would you like to put that? Should we put it as C under old and new business? Is that okay? C, all right. with
Yes.
everybody? We'll put that under as C, and then we'll move city manager's report to D, okay? Under old and new business. All right. Thank you very much. Okay. We have the consent agenda. We have the minutes from the November 27th, 2017 regular meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to those meeting minutes?
I only see one change that I could see, and that's on page 14, the very last one on the adjournment. It's got Councilwoman Burgess made a motion. I think we might want to change that for,
Really careful, I didn't catch that.
I didn't catch that either.
I didn't either.
There's another correction on page 2 of the minutes, middle way through, third paragraph from the bottom. It's got Councilman McLemore misspelled. There's no
Okay.
E instead of R.
Okay. So, yeah. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes as corrected?
so moved.
I have a motion and a second.
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. Nays have the same opportunity.
Aye.
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 And aye, that motion carries. Thank you very much, and thank y'all for being reading this thing so well. Okay. Finance, Mr. Martin, you want to introduce that one for us?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor and council, thank you for your attention to this matter. We have a very important item on the agenda tonight. All of them are important, but this one obviously is one of the more comprehensive things we do annually, and that's have an independent audit conducted as well as develop a comprehensive annual financial report as required by the regulatory authorities in the state of Virginia for the past fiscal year, which ended on June 30th of 2017. Without further ado, I'd like to recognize our interim, excuse me, our interim finance director, Tracy Gregory, who will introduce the representatives of Creedle, Jones, and Alga present, and also recognize the staff members from the finance department present. We asked them to be here tonight to be recognized for their contributions and hard work and all year round, but particularly in helping with the preparation of these important documents.
Good
evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council, and everyone else present. It is with great pleasure tonight that we present the 2017 CAFR for the City of Franklin. We've been hard at work, and I'd like to introduce, and many of you know them, but they've been instrumental this year, particularly with me being new, in the development of this financial report. We have Joanne Falk, stand please, Nancy Lehman, Missy, and we have Sandy who couldn't make it tonight. But we want you to know they are a phenomenal team, and they have been just super to work with. They've been great in my transition here during this interim stuff. So thanks so much to them.
So thank you for your work and your
Yes.
dedication.
Yes. So at this time, I'd like to introduce Robin. She is with Creedle, Jones, and Alga. She was here last year. I think she did the presentation. This is her second year. So Robin. Thank you.
I want to say thank you for giving our firm an opportunity to be your auditors this year and last year. And I want to also thank Tracy and her staff for being so cooperative and having the records in good shape. They were very instrumental in getting the final product done. So you've been handed a bound report that was 142 pages long. And I have given you a small handout of just items I'm going to highlight tonight because we'd be here for a week probably going through that whole thing. So the first thing is your audit is divided, your CAFR is divided into 6 basic sections. The introductory section, the financial section, required supplementary information, other supplementary information, the statistical section, and the compliance single audit section. So you've got those main sections. Some of these sections are required because y'all apply for the Certificate of Excellence in Reporting, which requires some of those statistical sections that aren't necessarily required unless you want to get the certificate. Which you did get the certificate last year, and I think Tracy said she's getting ready to submit that. That's due December 31st, so I don't see that as being a problem to be submitted. So having said that, the first thing, we have 3 reports that we put in the audit. The first one is the Independent Auditor's Report, which is on page 1. Things that I want to highlight are that management is responsible for the preparation of these financial statements. We do not prepare the financial statements. We're not responsible for it. We assist in preparing them, but they are yet management's responsibility. We express an opinion on these financial statements. And I've highlighted several times in the opinion letter that it's free of material misstatement. We don't do audits for every single transaction. We have a materiality level that we go by, and we audit based on that materiality level. We follow government auditing standards that are issued by the United States of America through the American Institute of CPAs. We follow auditing standards that are issued by the Auditor of Public Accounts in Virginia. So we have several sets of standards that we have to follow when we do an audit. And then we prepare the financial statements in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles in the United States. So that's another set of standards we have to follow. And then on page 2 of the audit, we also follow standards that are issued by the federal government for uniform administrative requirements. It's also known as the Uniform Guidance or the Single Audit Act. All of that is federal requirements. So having said that, y'all got a clean opinion on your audit this year. We had no findings, and it's called an unmodified report, but we like to call it a clean opinion. That's easier to understand. The first exhibit which is on, I can't find the page number, that got chopped off, but your first exhibit is your statement of net position. It shows, and I've just highlighted the big items, the cash balances for all the opinion units in the CAFR. You can go across the top, you can see cash and cash equivalents, 5.5 million for governmental, 2.7 for business type, giving a total of 8.3 million for the total government. And then the school board had $617,000 in cash, and the IDA had $14,000 in cash. So they're your big numbers for the cash. Your net fixed assets, I've highlighted those numbers. They can be found in your audit on pages 41 through 44. Going on down to the liability section, you have debt, and that's found on pages 45 to 50 in the notes to your financial statements. That's a total of $18 million in long-term debt at the end of June. Your total net position, that's toward at the bottom. The total primary government has $22.5 million in net position, so that's a positive net position. Pretty substantial. Going on up to page Exhibit 2 is your income statement, or your statement of activities. Highlighted the change in net position. You can go across that. The total primary government have 1.6 million positive change in net position. Going on to Exhibit 3, which is on page 16 of your CAFRA. This is, Exhibit 1 is prepared on the full accrual basis of accounting. This Exhibit 3 for this balance sheet is prepared on a modified accrual basis. So you have two balance sheets in here, which tends to confuse people, but this one is the fund accounting balance sheet that is, does not include fixed assets or long-term debt. That's the difference in the two schedules. So you'll see and this is the one that you operate on primarily on a day-to-day basis, is this Exhibit 3 balance sheet. Your total fund balances at the end of the year, you can go across and look at all your funds. General fund had $6.5 million in total fund balances at the end of June 30th of 17. Going on to Exhibit 4, page 18, net change in fund balances for the year. For the total governmental funds, it was a negative $229,372 net change in fund balance, which is just about a break even, but a little bit of a decrease there. Page 20, Exhibit 5 is your proprietary funds. These are your business type activities, your water sewer fund, solid waste, electric fund, airport fund. This is a full accrual basis. It has your fixed assets and your debt on it. And again, I've highlighted the cash for the total enterprise funds is $2.8 million, and your total net position was $8.1 million. That's your assets less your liability. Exhibit 6 is your statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position for the proprietary funds. Again, change in net position for all of them was $710,883 to the positive. Next thing I highlighted was in your notes to your financial statement, page 38. This just shows the transfers back and forth between all the funds, in case you want to see how money was moved around from fund to fund during the year. Pages 41 to 45 is your fixed assets. 41 to 43 is your fixed assets, 44. And then starting on 45 to 50 is your debt section. So all of that's long-term debt and your fixed assets, your capital assets for the city. And then on page 90 is what we call your combining funds, your funds that aren't what we consider a major fund. They're your smaller funds. And there's a long list of all the smaller funds that we don't list separately in the front of the financial statements. And that is your balance sheet, and then the next page, page 91, that's the income statement or the statement of revenues and expenditures for all the small funds. Page 95, Schedule 5 is your school board. This is where your detail for your school board starts. It's a component unit of the city. And you can see that the cash balance for all the school funds at the end of the year was $617,000. And your total fund balances were at $70,000 for the school funds. The next page up is 96, and you can see the net change in fund balance was negative 196,110 for the school funds. And page 133, here's the second auditor's report that we do for y'all. It's based on internal control. This is required by government auditing standards, and it's strictly looks at the internal control for the city. And if you go to page 134, the second page of that report, you'll see that I've highlighted the statement that the results of our test disclose no instances of noncompliance or other matters that are required to be reported under government auditing standards. So we found no things that we had to report here. The next auditor's report that we have to do, this is the third and final audit report we have to issue, and this is based on the uniform guidance. This is the one that's required by the federal government if y'all receive over $750,000 in federal assistance, which you easily do through social services and the school board alone. They give you plenty of federal money that requires y'all to have to report on this uniform guidance. And again, it does state in this report that y'all are responsible for compliance with the federal statutes and the terms and conditions of the federal awards. And we audit based on the uniform guidance requirements, and so that's what that's saying. We do it in all material respects. You'll see that the word material is mentioned several times in this. Again, it's a materiality audit. We don't look at every transaction. But we did not, looking at the last thing I highlighted on page 136, we did not identify any deficiencies that we considered to be in material weaknesses for this report. The last report I want to go over is it's on page, starts on 139 through 141. Actually, it should be 142. I've got there. This is called your Schedule of Expenditures of Federal Awards. A lot of people call it a CFA, that's an acronym for it. So this is your CFA. It lists all your federal programs. And on page 140, the total federal awards was $3.6 million this year for the city. And the last thing that's required by the uniform guidance, the federal government likes a recap of the city's financial status. That's on page 142. And it says that your auditor's report was unmodified. I mentioned that that's considered a clean opinion. And if you look down there, it says that no deficiencies were reported, no internal control problems. That's what all of that is saying, that y'all had none of those issues. And it lists the two programs that we considered major programs for federal purposes. And that concludes, that's the last page in the audit, page 142. So I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Jones?
And feel free to call in if you do. I know you just got the report, so if you have any questions and look over it, and anybody ever wants to call, just feel free to talk to Tracy or call me or whatever.
Thank you. We will preserve that right as we delve into it a little deeper. But thank you and your firm for a nice job on this. So thank you all. And also another thanks to the staff for their support too. Thank you.
Y'all have a happy holiday.
Thank you, and same to you and yours.
Mayor, one final comment. This is the first year that the state statutes and others have, other regulatory changes required that this report be presented prior to the end of December of the calendar year. And I really appreciate the auditors working hard along with the staff to make that happen. This is the first time the city of Franklin's had it in memory presented before January, February, actually sometimes late February. And so that took a really good coordination. We appreciate all the agencies that had a hand in that, and we'll be working to even further streamline that to make it hopefully less onerous in the future years. But I do appreciate their efforts to make us compliant in our filings with the state. We were on time, and I know I appreciate it, and I'm sure the city council does. Thank you.
We do. Thank you very much. Okay. Treasurer's report and presentation. You want to introduce Dinah? Or you?
No introductions necessary.
Yeah, all right.
I think she does this annually. This year she's expanded it, and we appreciate that. And there is one action item that'll come at the tail end of her presentation that she'll point out.
Okay. Good evening again, Mayor Rabel, Vice Mayor Cheatham, members of council, City Manager Mr. Martin, and City Attorney Taylor Williams. It's my pleasure again to bring to you the annual Treasurer's Report. I did it a little different this year, so I am going to try to follow some of my own stuff. So this is the 2017 annual report. It is for the figures of anything delinquent 2015 and older. If you will look at your report, we have about $295,452.71 in delinquent taxes. That includes real estate, personal property, and all the other taxes involved, mills tax, lodging tax, business license. So this reflects all of those taxes. Last year, I reported this annual report October 30th. We're just about a month, little less than a month, well, actually a month later, reporting that. And at that time, we had about $303,461.92 in delinquency. So did a little bit of improvement. Of course, each year, you know, we add another full year of delinquent taxes to that. So if you look at the real estate, currently, as of November the 17th, we have about $145,089.80 in delinquent real estate taxes. This runs from years 2001 to 2015. So of those, we still continue to do the monthly payments for our taxpayers who will come in and work with me, and we'll do payment plans for those. We get them on a monthly payment plan, try to get their taxes to where they become current for the upcoming tax years. I also still continue to work with my tax attorney out of Virginia Beach, Jason Dunn. He has about, I want to say about 30 more properties. We did not have a tax sale this year because there was some just logistics on some of the properties that a lot more information had to be gathered, and to get all of that done, we just could not get all of the, get it ready for sale. I do anticipate a spring tax sale with about 9 properties.
Ms. Babb, can you notify us, I don't know if the other council people are interested, but could you notify me as to what properties qualify for that in my ward at some point, please, by email
I
or something?
usually don't do by wards,
Well, that's
but
what I'm
what
asking.
you will see is those are in the paper. I have to be required by law to give 30 days notification. So prior to them going to a tax sale, they will be ran in the newspaper, the Tidewater News. I also have those printed out, and they are on a piece of paper. You're welcome to come by and get one, and of those actual sales. Now, with that being said, anything that is put in the paper up to sale, up until the day before the sale, somebody can what the owner can come in and pay restitution and get those off of the books, pay the sales, or not, they can pay all the taxes and all the fees associated with that sale and have that removed. So that they get that up until that last day. Usually, even I have done it as close as 9 o'clock in the morning. If somebody comes in, our goal is not to sell their property. Our goal is to get the taxes paid and keep people in their property. A lot of these properties, if you'll look back in 2001, those properties is a lot, and the owner is deceased. So it takes a lot of due diligence to get all the people who are involved in those properties. We try to notify them and get them to decide should they want it. We actually found one in 2005 that has now started paying, so we pulled that piece of property. But if you'd like to give me a call back, I'd be more than glad to let you know if there's anything in your ward.
Thank you.
Okay? But as you said, as I was saying, with the state code, it does allow me to sell properties who are delinquent more than 2 years. I typically don't do anything 2 years. I usually try to work with the taxpayers, but anything 3 years or older, I usually turn over to Mr. Dunn. Along with Mr. Dunn, he is also willing to work with the taxpayers. He has put many of the taxpayers on a payment plan, and his paralegal will, work with me and the taxpayer to get them on a plan that they actually can afford. Again, my goal is not just to take their property and sell it, it's to get the revenue that is due to the city and let them keep their property. For the 2016, we had $5.5 million budgeted, and we have about, as of November the 30th, we have about $195,821 left owing to that. We have not sent out our delinquent bills, because if you realize 16s, we've sent out the second part of the bills, and now we've just sent out the 17. So anybody who comes in here to pay their 17 taxes, they're going to pay anything delinquent prior to them being allowed to pay the 17s. Personal property. As of the November the 30th, we have about $133,612.79 in delinquent personal property taxes. That runs years 2008 to 2015. If you'll realize, 8 is longer than the 5-year statute of limitations, but that means some of those between 8 and 11 are on a payment plan with me, and I'm working with them. Or we have found them before we charge them off, and we are garnishing wages or trying to work with them to get that money into the city. We do still continue to make payment plans for personal property. The goal of those plans are to have them paid before I bill the next upcoming year. So the taxpayers typically have, when we start making plans, usually I start making plans for delinquent taxes. We just billed 17, so what's going to happen is in January I'll start making those payment plans for 17, and they'll have about a 6-month period to pay those taxes. We try to get them to where they can afford those payments and keep their vehicles so they can go to and from their jobs. Anybody who is delinquent, again, just like real estate, if they have a 16 tax bill, there are other options that we attach. There's DMVs, stops put on there. That means they cannot get their registration, they cannot get their decals for the license plates until these taxes are paid. That is a great tool that we use, and DMV's it's been great. I think I started that back when I took over the office in 2010, and I find that to be a very good tool with us. We typically use the VAC collections, and I'll get more into that as I go forward into my presentation. We did not utilize them as much this year. Nothing against the company. We just had so much else going on with our conversion, with the software conversion, that I didn't feel like it was fair to the staff to add that extra tool to the staff, because it is a lot when we start doing those seizures of vehicles. For the 2016 tax year, we have 8.8 million usually budgeted, and we have about $79,705 dollars left. That's about a 97% collection rate for our 2016. And again, we are still collecting 16s based on people who are coming in to pay their 17 taxes. Of course, they're going to pay their 16s first, if we can find them, hopefully. Due to the statute of limitations per the code Virginia 58.13940, I will be asking after this presentation for council to charge off the personal property taxes for 2011 in the amount of $16,165.53. This is based on years of attempts for the collections. Some of these people have deceased, and we cannot find the vehicles or the people. So based on the statute of limitations, we're no longer able to go after those taxpayers. It's 5 years, so I'm going to be charging off $16,165.53, and you'll get that in the next presentation. Our business license, as of November the 30th, 17, we only have 3 delinquent businesses that have not paid their taxes in the amount of $367. That runs 11 to 14. Right now, we are pretty current on those. I'm still trying to locate those. 2 of them, one of them has been moved based on the police shut the business down. They moved out at about the same time I just found them, and they were going to pay them, but they will not pay. So we're going to have to charge those off based on the statute of limitations. So that $264 will be charged off of that delinquent business license. It's been questioned before about a business license, and just to reiterate what I have informed council members and as well as citizens, if there's an active business and they owe the city money, there's no business that is ever charged off that has a delinquency to that business. I will work with them until those business licenses are paid, but those businesses do not get charged off. That's just not acceptable. If they're in business, they will pay. Meals and lodging, currently we have about $16,382 in delinquent meals taxes and 0 in lodging. The delinquent meals tax is one that I am working with, continue to work with, and they are continuing to do as the agreement between me and the business.
Excuse me. The meals tax, isn't that a fiduciary tax?
Yes.
So they have collected those funds and they're not really belong to the business, correct?
That's correct, and what happened was with that was prior to me taking over to the office, and I opted, as I have the authority to do so, is to make a payment plan for them. They have gotten this down tremendously. They continue to do what I asked them to do, and they are staying current on all their current taxes. So I am continuing to work with them and get them. The goal is to keep them in business and to help the city, to support the city, and get the revenue in. So yes, but this amount was major. It was a lot larger, and I have worked with this company, or this business, and like I said, they're in much better shape, and they're doing exactly what I've asked them to do.
And the reason I ask is we've got people who owe $300 and they don't pay the $300 on personal property taxes, and they get a boot on their car. But yet you have somebody that owes $3,000-$4,000 and nothing happens to them because they're making payment, work out a payment plan.
Well, with no disrespect, but that's not apples to apples. A vehicle is the person who gets a boot on their car. They had the same opportunity to come in and make a payment plan with me. If they choose not to, I can't make them do that. If they come in and they make a payment plan with me, I'm more than willing to work with them. And there will be no boots. If
I understand, but
Right.
like you said, it's not apples to apples, because these meals taxes were already collected from the customers. So they're using somebody else's money.
And this happened
Which
prior
is-
to me becoming the treasurer.
So-
And I am continuing to work with them, as I will continue.
So how long have you been treasurer now?
When I took over the city collections was in 2010.
So for 7 years, they've been paying back money
Right.
that
I work a
they were
payment plan
supposed to
that is-
pay when they collected it.
Well, you got to understand, they've still got to operate, and they still have to pay their current meals tax currently, and they're doing so. So not only that, to keep them in business, I made an agreement with them to be able to do that. And
I
as long as they do-
understand, but it's still, you're using, they're taking the citizens' money, they're charging the citizens taxes on their meals, they're not paying the taxes.
You got to realize that happened a while back when it was not,
And they've
without
been
being-
carried for 7 years now.
it was not required, it was not enforced, let me put it that way. The payment of their taxes was not enforced at that time. They are now. They are paying currently, they're paying as they go forward on every meals tax, and they're paying it like they're supposed to. I am working, this number was a very much larger number, and they're dwindling it down.
I understand,
And I
but the larger the number,
anticipate this within to be the next 12 months. This will, hopefully will be taken care of, if not, at least within the next 18 months. So I keep it at an affordable amount to where the business can afford it, continue to operate. And like I said, that is an agreement between the business and myself.
And as you stated, everybody could come in and talk to you and get a payment plan set up if they so
Sure.
need it, so.
so if,
There's no,
to move
there's no
on.
collection actions taken if the taxpayer, the businesses, the taxpayer, real estate, homes are not taken if they work with me. That's the first step. They have to enter the office.
I understand, but I'm concerned about my constituents, and can they carry tax debt on their vehicle without getting a boot on their car for 7 years?
There's a little difference between that.
Yeah, it's
than
a
mills
lot of
tax.
big money, yeah, that we letting them get away with.
But they are paying like they're, the agreement between myself and the business.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Additional information I wanted to reiterate, I didn't kind of go every detail of everything, but I did want to still share with you the few tools that are allowed by the treasurer, but it's not limited to. We still utilize the DMV stop, the debt set-off. That's a great tool that our office uses. We are doing more and more wage liens. We are associated with the Virginia Employment Commission, where we can go in and find where people are working and be able to do wage liens. Virginia Auction still continues to work with me on the seizures as the distress warrants. We do tax sales, we do judicial and non-judicial. We have now started using some unclaimed property. I am pleased to really let you know, over the last 12 months, we've gotten over $5,000 in unclaimed property. Unclaimed property is where somebody has left money and it sits in the state and has to be, or it sits in there, and then after 5 years it goes to unclaimed property, and then we're able to go in there and request those funds back to the locality. That's another tool that we started about 2 years ago. The first couple of months it was kind of like a lot more work than what we were receiving, and then all of a sudden they kind of changed some of the ways we had to do it, and now we're receiving a much better. Again, I still, as I said before, we're continuing to do the payment plans. The historical data, I think I've shared with you over the last few years how when I took office, and I think it was maybe the second report or the first, I don't think it was the first report, because I think the first one was a little bit over 1.5 million, but in 2010 it was like 1.2 million in the delinquencies, and we have now got it down to $295,000, and I think that shows a tremendous decrease in our delinquencies. A lot of it is basically working with the taxpayers and getting them to realize the taxes have to be paid. If you'll look at the next slide, I kind of did a historical data and a graphing showing you the way it was working. And just some things about the office. This last year has been, Randy had asked me to kind of give you a little bit of update about our office as well as the delinquencies, just to kind of let you know what the office was happening in our office. And many of you know, not only the council, but the citizens know that we went through a conversion with Edmonds, which was our first module for utilities. It was done in April, so between April and I want to say September, as many of you are aware, you probably got phone calls. We had some struggles. I think we are now seeing the light at the end of the tunnel with some of those. I think it's we're getting better at it between the utility customer service division and the electric division, as well as the collection side, the treasurers. I see a lot more improvement. It seems to be more smoother now than it was in the beginning. So as I alluded to earlier, because it was April to September, we were in that fast mode of learning all about this new software. It was challenging for us in all aspects. I chose as the treasurer not to use any additional collection tools for our personal property. I just felt like, you know, we would work with the payment plans, but as far as going out and doing vehicle seizures, I talked to my company, they agreed, and so we focused more on the software conversion where we needed to put our attention to. And now we are back on track. I think things are looking better for the office, and hopefully just had a little bit of update today about the software conversion. I see that probably somewhere in January and February, Ms. Rickman's office will be doing some working with the modules, and then once she gets her side done, then it will be sent over on my side. So I do anticipate some of the next modules being converted as we go forward into the new year. Not only did we go through the software conversion, many of you are aware that SunTrust closed its branch down. Well, it was our primary bank at that time, and they offered to work with us, and so we had to do some changes with our banking, the way we did our banking and get the funds into the general fund. Actually, I think those changes have been better for the city. We can actually scan all the checks. They never leave our office. We can scan them and download them into SunTrust, and that money at 10 o'clock is deposited into the bank. So we're not, the next morning we process them and then we scan them in, and we get our credit a lot quicker. Many of you may have seen a Loomis truck, but Loomis picks up our funds every day. I love it. We don't have to carry money to the bank. We're not putting anybody's life at danger by transporting money out of the city. They come in and they pick it up on a daily basis, and then the money is transported and we're deposited. Depending on what time they get it, it could be the next morning, it's deposited into the bank account. So some of those changes with SunTrust has been a better implement for our locality. I think we see the checks hitting the bank accounts quicker, so we're hopefully seeing less returns on bank checks, as well as the funds are into the account a lot quicker, which helps the revenue. Also, the Treasurer's Office was awarded the Office of Accreditations. This is our 4th year in a row that we received this Office of Accreditations. I would invite each and every one of you to come to the office and look at what it requires to get this certificate or this award. It is not an award that is just given lightly. Our association works very diligently in trying to hold our treasurers, myself and all my counterpartners, to a higher standard. And to get this award so that our city is represented as a Office of Accreditations means that this office, our office, is holding itself to a higher standard, and we're meeting all the requirements. And there's probably 15, 20 of these requirements. So I invite each and every one of you in to stop in and just see what those requirements are. Last of the update for the office is in 2017's annual conference, I was nominated and appointed by my peers as the second vice president of the association. I was sworn in at the conference in June, and I feel it was a great honor, and I'm very humbled by my peers asking me to be their second vice president. And if all goes well, then I will be putting on the annual conference for the association in 2020, which I hope all of you will be you all will be invited to. And it's a great honor for our locality to be able to say that we were part of the association and holding the honor of the presidency. So I feel very honored and humbled. It's a great opportunity. It's a lot of work involved, but I'm willing for the challenge. I've got a great staff. I asked them how they felt about it, because it's going to put a lot of work on them when I'm not in the office, but they were all willing to step up to the plate so that I could accept this position. So I just wanted to give you that little feedback on what happened to at the office. I guess that's it for that. The next thing that I would like you will see in your package, it's not up on here, is that I would like to have the approval for the charge-offs. So what I am asking for you as a council to approve is for me to write off personal property taxes for 2011. You'll see the list of those taxes. Anything blacked out means that I have located them. They're either garnished or their wages, or we have got a payment plan, or they're in bankruptcy, which I can no longer charge those off, because once they become out of bankruptcy, I can still go after them and have them pay. So I am asking council to charge off for personal property the amount of $16,165.53 in personal property taxes. I'm also going to be asking if you want to do it separate, or do you want to do it all together?
I think it's probably easier to do it separately. so-
Okay, all right. I'd like to ask for approval for the treasurer's office to charge off 2011's personal property taxes in the $16,165.53.
Okay. Okay, I have a motion let's have a motion first on the 2011 personal property tax of $16,165.53. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes, where are they listed in the,
Begins on page 60 is the memo, and it's the pages immediately thereafter
I
in
don't
your
see a
agenda
page
package.
number on the,
If you move it, you'll see it in the
Okay.
corner.
on the computer here.
Yeah, there's about 4 or 5 pages after that memo.
And you said they're from what year?
2011.
Okay, because I'm seeing stuff in there from 2015.
Well, you gotta keep on going.
Yeah, it's
It's
further
the summary.
back.
It's the next to the last.
Look in the top left corner, you'll see page 60 of 88.
Yeah, the
Up
memo's
here,
on
this
60,
this
and
60
then,
you're talking about?
and then the next 4 pages, I
Yeah,
think it is.
the one up there in the left corner.
Gotcha,
That's the one she's talking
okay.
about. The ones that are redacted, she said that she's
It's
either gotten
paid.
in touch with, or
Right.
they've got a
That
payment
is
plan,
correct.
or whatever.
Yeah, I got the memo.
Even
Not
prior to-
directly related to this motion, but just a question for the treasurer. When you enter into a payment plan, does that stop the statute of limitations from running, or are we putting ourselves in jeopardy? It does
Yes,
stop it.
yes. I can take it out of the statute of limitations based on the agreement between the taxpayer and myself. That's why you still see some 8s out there, because they're in a payment plan with me. If I find them, and I can get them into a payment plan. We make it workable for them. I mean, sometimes it takes a little longer, but, you know, yes, but it takes it out of the statute of limitations.
Okay. We have a motion and we have a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. Nays have the same opportunity.
Aye.
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 And aye. Motion carries to charge off the personal property tax for 2011 of $16,165.53.
Okay, the next line of business, I would like to ask the council to consider charging off the business license for 2011. It's one business that, like I informed you earlier, they were closed by the police and left the area without paying their license in the amount of $264.
Okay.
Move to approve the write-off of $264 for 2011 business license.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. Nays have the same opportunity.
Aye.
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 And aye. That motion to charge off $264 of the business license from 2011 passes. Thank you very much.
I do have one quick one. Do you have any idea when they're going to start the payment plan for the utilities?
The payment plans?
Yeah.
Um,
We've talked about a
We
budgeted
The
plan.
budget
Yeah,
plans,
budget.
that would be a question for probably Tracy's or Joyce, because she's the one that does those budget plans. That's
Yeah.
not really what we consider. For me to go into a payment plan with the utilities, it has to be an inactive account. It cannot be an active account.
All right.
I'll
Any
get
idea?
you- I'll get you an answer.
Yeah,
Okay,
we can
thank
get
you.
that answer. But I
Because
think
we've
it
talked
should
about
be
it since the beginning of time.
soon. I think she's the last I talked to her, it was something she was working on. So is there any other questions for me? If not-
Yes.
Oh, yes, sir?
I seem to remember you coming before us in the past asking about the software and how it would make life so much better for your department. How long will it be before you are completed with training and the software can be deemed working the way it should be for your department, I guess, as well as the other Treasury Department?
That's a question that I cannot answer today, standing here. These modules are unique. We're a unique locality anyway. We did not anticipate some of the challenges we had with the utilities, but fortunately, we worked as a team and we got those challenges taken care of. And, you know, with any software, many of you may have already been aware, if you've ever gone through a software change, it's never a bed of roses. I mean, there's always issues. Some are bigger than others. But we did work with those. Utilities was a unique situation to Franklin anyway, from the old software to the new software. We are moving forward with some of the other ones now that we've got the utilities manageable. And I know for a fact, I don't want to speak for Ms. Rickman's office, but I know that she and I talked to the next Edmonds for the next module, so we are anticipating probably within the next 2 to 3 months moving forward. Testing, we're going to do some stronger testing with the tax modules than we did with the utility modules. I'm a very strong believer that we need to test this. Taxes cannot be messed up. That is the big revenue to this locality, and we need to get it right before we push the buttons to go. So we're going to do a lot more testing. The software company that I talked to this morning or this afternoon, they want the testing done too. They want to make sure that we go into the training module and test it and see what's working, what's not working, so that we can move forward or we can put a halt to it and get the programmers back into it. Because like I said, state income estimated are still a part of our jobs. That's very unique to the Department of Taxation, and we have to make it right. Real estate, personal property, that is a very big module for this locality. Edmonds was not That was not their strong factor, was taxation. So they are creating some of these modules to what we want. We're working with them and we're talking with them, we're having communications. This is what we have to have. This is what we need this software to do.
So, I mean, I appreciate your thorough, long answer, but I guess simply for the people who are listening at home, we've invested quite a bit of money into this software. You guys sold council on voting for this software to approve giving it to you, and I just simply like to know, when are you going to be able to use it for its purposes that it was intended?
We're using it every day.
Well, when will you be finished training?
We'll give an updated, as part of the template that the council agreed on, the format by consensus. That'll be one of the items on there, and we're going to give you an updated schedule of the modules. And we just overcame a hurdle because the Treasurer's Office and Commissioner of Revenue will be the next focus over the next 2 to 3 months, as mentioned, and then we'll follow with the other modules that are remaining. But we're in the short rows in terms of the modules at this point.
Well, could you give me a round figure? Are we talking about another year?
Before I give you the report, no.
No, I'm not. I'm talking about that the thing will be working correctly.
I'll put it in the report.
Do you think it'll be a year or less?
Less.
Okay. And finally, Ms. Rickman, SunTrust.
Ms. Babb.
I'm sorry, Ms. Babb.
That's okay.
Please
I
forgive me.
understand.
Are we paying for the armored truck?
How am I going to put that? We are paying, I made an agreement with SunTrust for them to retain our business, and we are paying 40%, they're paying 60% of the armored truck for us.
So we are paying
40%.
Now, would we be paying armored truck fees if we were going with, for instance, Bank of America, who's local?
That would be when I do an RFP for the next banking services, which will, when I finish the 2-year agreement that I signed with SunTrust, that's what I'm going to put in. I'm going to put in for them to continue to service us with an armored truck pickup. It's safe, it's secure, and I don't put
And we just have to pay for it every month.
I'd rather pay a little bit extra money and have my staff safe.
Well, we got a police department that can escort you from the city
They don't
hall
have
to
time to
the
come over and
bank.
get the monies. You know, it's a good thought. I would love it, but like I said, it is a safer factor having it. And many banks or many treasurer's offices, unless they can walk out their right door and walk across the street, use these services.
I understand, and please forgive me, but I just happen to be concerned with the constituents' money. That's where they get it out of taxes.
I understand, so do we. We look at our expenditures very tightly. So,
Thank you.
Yes. Any other questions?
No, Ms. Babb, thank you for the very thorough report, and thank you for the work that your department is doing. And I do applaud you from a standpoint of, from a taxation standpoint, understanding that you're making the software fit your process and not define your process, which is typically what the software company wants to happen. So I would say stay at it, be diligent. It is tough. Any type of conversion is always unseen thing. So, but thank you all for the work you're doing, and thank you for that report.
Thank you, and I'll see you next year.
Okay.
Never smooth.
Okay, we have a budget amendment. You got that one, Mr. Martin?
Yes. If I can get to it.
All right.
Apologize, I was behind the gun there. Okay. We have one budget amendment for your consideration tonight, and this is a catch-up amendment for the schools for this fiscal year for all of the different grant funds that they've received that were not included in their budget. There'll be a subsequent school amendment coming with some other changes, but this one is prepared for your consideration this evening. It's listed as budget amendment number 2018-08, and you have those miscellaneous funds that are there. Totals $224,006. 606, I'm sorry. New eyes aren't working too good yet.
Okay.
So that's our recommendation, that you approve that budget amendment.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Martin on this one?
Move for adoption of budget amendment 2018-08.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adopt Budget Amendment 2018-08. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. Nays have the same opportunity.
Aye.
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 And aye. Budget Amendment 2018-08 passes. Thank you very much. Okay, now we'll do the old and new business. First up is the derelict properties ordinance. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I also got a call from a citizen and spoke to someone on the Planning Commission, and they said, echoed some of the sentiments of the citizen that spoke earlier in regards to having a public hearing on the issue, as well as having the business owners or real estate owners participate in the draft or understanding of it. So what I would move that we would take that into consideration, because these are the people who pay our taxes, and it was a few people, realty people, who would like us to have a public hearing on this issue before we adopt it.
Okay. Any other discussion? Options?
Yes. I've spoke with a number of constituents in my ward and out of the ward, basically, because I had gotten calls about explaining what was going on, basically. And what I can see tonight is basically, I think we need to consider a public hearing and a committee of some property owners to get their view on this, basically before we move forward, to try to come to a decision to vote on it, because there are some things, there are more questions that they have that I can't answer, and I don't think any of us can answer as well. But with the public hearing, they have a side they want to share and answer some questions. I think that would be prudent for us to do that, to look at that situation before considering moving forward, because it is something that, if it's another tool, we want to make sure the tool works for the citizens as well as the city.
Okay. Any other comments, discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I also received a couple phone calls. I'm a little disappointed that the night after we've been talking about this for 3 or 4 months, that all of a sudden you get this whole rash of phone calls, like we just all of a sudden put it on the agenda and we're gonna vote on it. But I do, if we have questions, I think we ought to just take a deep breath and maybe at least hear, I don't know that we need a public hearing, but I would just like to reach out, have a chance to reach out to the people that contact me and see if, what they're talking about, and see if we've missed anything or anything like that. And just kind of put it off until our next meeting if we could, just so we can address any issues if there are any. I mean, I've read it, I don't see them, but I'm not a property owner, so I'd like to maybe get a little input from them.
Anybody else have any comments before we go on?
No, I didn't get any phone calls on it, and kind of disappointed that the folks that had questions didn't come in tonight, knowing we had it on the agenda. As Mr. Burgess said, we've been talking about it for longer than 4 months. It's been quite a while we've been talking about this, and talking about what we need to do. If it's the wish of council to put it on for a public hearing or another meeting, that's fine, but I think we don't need to be dragging our feet on it any very much longer.
Anybody else?
After hearing what I heard tonight, I too, at the last minute, like I said, it's been on the agenda, we've been talking about it for some time now. I don't mind holding off to see what their concerns are. But as far as putting together a committee, it's going to take some time to, I believe, to do that. I don't mind waiting a little while, but we can't be next year talking about the same thing.
Yeah, you know, I certainly don't have a problem with getting more input. I've not had any calls to the negative side. Matter of fact, I've had several calls to the positive side to think it's a good thing to start cleaning up. I do find it a little disappointing, though, that every time we talk about doing something with real estate, whether it be rental property, whether it be derelict properties, whether it be unsafe properties, all of a sudden everybody comes out and you know, and wants us to do something different. And they want you to do something, but then when you want to do something, they say, don't do it. You know, it is very frustrating. I'm okay with tabling this to the next meeting and giving us an opportunity. And we may decide. I hate to spend the money to publicize, you know, a public hearing. However, I think if you know, those people know how to sign up for citizens' time, I would encourage them to sign up for citizens' time. You know, we've done that in the past. Use that as the format to get that input.
Right.
You know, we cannot continue to delay on all of these things that have to do with real estate and in our city. We have done, you know, you think about all the things we put up. You know, you talk about a rental inspection program, you talk about derelict properties, and everybody comes out and says, you need a committee. I mean, we can't slowball this stuff anymore. We got to clean up our stuff.
Well, Mr. Mayor, let me say this. We're here because we represent the people.
I understand that, Mr. Johnson. I do understand that.
I mean, and we really need to understand that.
Well,
And if
the
they
people.
want a public hearing, I think we should give the
Well,
people
we've
a
only
public hearing.
had one person come up here and say they wanted a public hearing.
Well, I make a motion that we
there are
have
many
a
more.
public hearing.
But anyway, what I would suggest that we table this till the January meeting.
I make a motion that we have a public hearing on the issue.
The only,
There's a motion on the table. Is there a second?
It's not required by statute, and it is an expense that the city would have to bear.
Yeah, that was the one thing. If we recall, you know, we don't have to have a public hearing.
So you'll ignore the motion?
I'm just saying that we don't have to have it. I have not.
In other words, we don't have to have a public hearing to discuss the issue.
No.
I'm just understanding.
No,
Someone
no,
have
What
you
I'm
c-
suggesting is a public hearing is a required forum where you advertise in the newspaper that pursuant to a statute, you're going to have a public hearing. To adopt an ordinance of this nature, you can have a meeting where people can be advised that this is going to be a topic of discussion, such as a city council meeting through an agenda process, and you don't have to have the formality of a public hearing. Most of the time when we have a public hearing, nobody shows up to speak at the public hearing. And so it's a question of, do you want to spend $500 on a public hearing and have no one show up? Or do you want to just simply have it as an agenda meeting? Because that's all that's required to adopt this ordinance.
Could we do it, excuse me a second.
Yes, go ahead.
Could we do it as a work session type meeting prior to?
you can do either that, and you've done that.
In other words, if we scheduled a work session to gain input prior to next our next meeting scheduled in January. Would that work?
I think I'd like that better. That way we could have some give and take. If you do citizens' time, there's not the give and take.
Right.
Public hearings
Well,
doesn't.
I guess the only question, just for clarity, is you normally don't take public comments at a work session, but you certainly can do that as long as it's agreed up front you're going to do it. You can list it and have public comment. We've done this before on the agenda on a topic where you do that. So you can either do it either way.
Well, there are people who want to give feedback and ask questions on this, and I think we need to give the people the right answers and so where they can be comfortable as to whatever we're going to do with the situation. I mean, and, you know.
Well, we've got a motion.
Hold it, before you, since you didn't move on the motion, I'd like to say that also I think that we are failing to allow the input of our planning commission. We have a planning commission, and it's not required that we go to them, but they might be able to offer us some professional input on this ordinance that we are about to adopt. So if we're not going to do a public hearing, then I think we could at least refer it to the planning commission for their opinion to give us, so that we will have more information as we move forward.
Well, what is the pleasure of council? I'm fine with doing whatever y'all want to do.
Mr. Mayor, I would.
I've
I don't
stated
wanna
mine.
drag it out.
I've stated mine.
My statement was not to try to drag it out. But I would like to see us maybe plan at the first January meeting to have a work session, if we can work it out. Open the public to have a dialogue with us, and then maybe take their consideration and then act on it at the last January meeting.
Okay.
So that we have a timeline and we get it done, but we listen to what they have to say and put it into the program as it works out.
So a question, how will the public be contacted to know to come to the next meeting to do that?
Well, I know
How
the
is
media,
that gonna
the
happen?
media is going to report on it. I see them feverishly working, so media is going to do it, and it'll be hopefully front page instead of buried in a block ad deep in it that costs us substantially.
And each one of us can tell the people that have contacted us, we're gonna have a
Right.
meeting to spread it in the community.
I mean, if
We
you've
got
had.
around pretty quick about us
Yeah.
voting on it tonight. I think we can spread it around pretty quick.
Well, Mr. McLemore's got a town hall, he can, or his board meeting, he can certainly announce it.
And I'll certainly have it on everything Ward 3.
Yeah, I mean, so, I think, if we've been getting feedback, I think, we owe it to those people who've been calling to say, yeah, come on out at 6 o'clock on
both sides.
on whatever day it is.
My
The
learned
8th,
colleagues,
it's the
my
8th.
learned colleagues, this isn't something that we feel as though the planning commission would have reasonable input to help us make this decision. We have a planning
I don't,
I don't see why not.
That's who wrote the ordinance.
That's who wrote the
That's
ordinance.
who helped write the ordinance. Both
So have we
Planning
got a
commission doesn't
referral
know
from the
the
planning commission, or just?
No, the community development.
community development.
can-
Yeah, but did he get permission from them? Did they?
I'm sure he's talked to him.
Well, we don't know.
Talked to him.
I mean, I've seen that happen where I went to a planning commission meeting, which I have been attending, and I'll be at the next one, where they say one thing and we get it back another way, so.
You had a,
No,
Mr.
no,
Mayor, you
I
had a
don't-
motion on the floor. What's going on with that motion?
It's not been seconded.
the motion
I know
has
it
not
had
been
been
seconded, but there was a motion and we.
Have a public hearing.
Yes, there was a
All right,
motion to have.
second.
have
You
a-
got a second.
All right, I have a motion and I have a second to have a public hearing on the derelict properties. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by aye, nays have the same opportunity.
Aye.
Nay.
Nay.
Aye.
Nay.
Nay.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we add it to the agenda as a work session at the very next meeting in January.
Second?
6 o'clock is, okay.
I have a motion to add work session for 6 o'clock at our next regular scheduled meeting to discuss derelict properties.
And how is that going to be, before we do that, how is that going to be advertised?
It's going to be advertised the same way that this meeting was advertised, that they seem to find out about pretty quickly.
And how was that?
We post it, it'll be on the website.
It's on the website, it gets posted.
Okay, it's going to be on the city website?
Yes, it's on the city website, it gets posted.
I
That
wanna
will-
know.
You know,
Can you put on
and
the
we
website?
also have an obligation as members of council who do represent the people, to call the people, let the people know we're going to have the meeting. If they want to come, please come, pro or con.
Let 'em
And
know.
then we'll, whatever, and then we'll worry about it at the next meeting, okay? All right,
Okay.
so I have
I
a
believe that's
motion.
the 8th of January.
The 8th of January?
First meeting.
I have a motion to add a work session on January the 8th to discuss derelict properties prior to the regular scheduled meeting of that night.
Oh, you haven't got your second yet.
I do have a second.
Oh, so it's discussion? Well, under discussion, I think that we should have the city manager send a letter or something, and ask the planning commission to send us a letter with their feelings in regards to this issue, since they have a meeting on the 14th of December. We can have that, something official from the planning commission before us as well when we make our decision.
All right?
Typically, if I could comment, that typically this is a police power regulation, if I understood it correctly. The Planning Commission deals with zoning and land use regulations as a normal course of business. I just wanted to make the council aware of it.
Yeah, I'm not sure,
So the police is involved in this?
Police power. They can be.
it means policing the property.
I'm like, what?
Y'all don't
Do you have
confuse
something
me.
you want to say,
Don't
Mr. Goodwin?
Yeah, it's very confusing.
And of course, the agenda's already set for their current meeting. Go ahead.
Yes.
Just to clarify, the planning commission has already acted on that. It's in your comprehensive plan. And as one of the tools that we could use to bring together with the property maintenance code, the unsafe structure code, high grass, to do some cleaning up. And it was a concern that the derelict structures were sitting there and sitting there and sitting there and not being utilized. So it's in their recommendations under the housing chapter of their comprehensive plan.
Thank you very much. Okay. So we have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor of having the work session on January the 8th prior to the regular scheduled meeting signify by saying aye. Nays have the same opportunity.
Aye.
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 And aye. We will have that work session on January the 8th. Thank y'all very much.
At 6, right?
6 o'clock.
Here.
Okay.
Okay. Recognition policy is next.
Yes, sir. I won't rehash the recommendation and presentation I made at the last meeting, but the council did not act on it, and it is back before you tonight for further consideration and guidance. The draft policy is unchanged from what was presented at the last meeting by myself, and I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Martin?
Well, since we were unable to come to a meeting or a meeting of the mind on the language as council instructed the city manager to do with me, I think that we should pull the resolution because it doesn't fit the purposes in which the spirit of the law that I was asking to be written. This resolution doesn't address that. So before we just put something in to be putting something in, I'd move that we would just pull it completely.
Well,
And I'd like to hear what my colleagues got to say about
well,
it.
yeah, so you make a motion and then we discuss, then
Oh,
you
okay,
get
go
upset because we discuss. So before we, when you make a motion, we got to ask, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. I have a motion and I have a second to pull it. Now we can have discussion.
Okay. We're voting on it now?
No, we're just having discussion.
Discussion, okay.
Mr. Mayor, the only thing I say is, this is a 10-line resolution or motion. I don't really see anything it does. We've not had anything all these years. We had one situation that came up where councilman wasn't satisfied with the direction, and those things are gonna come up. And I don't think you're gonna be able to write a policy that really is gonna fit everything. That's why I seconded the motion to pull it, and in my opinion, if it didn't come back, it wouldn't really bother me.
I don't disagree with pulling it, because I certainly wouldn't vote for anything that would undermine the city manager's authority and what had been proposed before, not talked about before, did exactly that. So I would vote to pull it as well.
Well, I would just say, what were we doing before? That,
It was, if I can share with you, it was a matter of
Because
if the
I'm
fire
new.
department, if somebody helps out the fire department would recognize that person. If a citizen did something beyond the call of duty for the police department, the police would recognize them. Tonight was a perfect example. The riverkeeper didn't apply to any particular department, and he was recognized by the council or the city manager. This was designed to just say that the departments wouldn't retain the, I guess you could say, the privilege of recognizing who they wanted to versus who they didn't like. And they would recognize people equally. So therefore, the department heads would recognize the citizen for doing something outstanding. But apparently, the city manager feels as though to have them do that undermines his authority. So rather than put this thing in here, which takes any leeway from council and gives more authority to the city manager, I'd rather leave it the way it is, non-existent.
I don't see it as giving more authority to the city manager. I see it as letting the city manager manage the city and be on a day-to-day with his.
Well, that's not
with
unusual.
his
We don't
employees.
see eye to eye.
I'll let you talk. With his employees. I don't know that, and I don't know the case you're talking about, the one time that you're talking about that something happened. But I can think of numerous times that the different departments have brought people forward that needed, for their recognition.
Exactly.
And they had brought them forward with the understanding from the city manager that they were coming forward.
Well, in this
Ultimately,
particular
the city
case,
manager that was brought into it, so I wouldn't vote for anything that was gonna undermine him, and certainly wouldn't vote for anything that said the department heads are required to do something.
All right, I think we're called for the question. We have a motion and a second to pull the recognition policy and just basically use good common sense, I guess.
Mayor, just a question for clarity, what pool means?
We're not going to vote on it.
right.
Well,
Right.
what I would suggest,
What are we pulling?
I think it would be to table indefinitely,
Is that a
or
better-
just discontinue consideration. I just want to be sure that,
That's what pool means.
Discontinued
no,
consideration.
pool means taking it off the agenda.
We're going to discontinue discussion and
Gotcha.
consideration of this particular.
Yeah, I like that better.
All right, so we have an amended motion and we have a second to the amended motion, so we'll
Okay.
vote on the amended motion first. All those in favor of the amended motion to withdraw this from consideration forever and ever, hold your peace. All right,
Aye.
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 and aye. It is so forth withdrawn.
Thank you. Congratulations, Randy.
All righty. Okay, now we go to the ordinance clarification that's in C. I think the motion was pretty specific about what we were trying to do. It looked like there was just the state code. We had numbers in there, weren't full numbers. Is that,
Well, the numbers were misaligned. We
Okay.
had a 3 where there should have been a 2.
okay, so we transposed some numbers. Okay,
Yes,
so
sir.
we want to make that correction.
Yes, sir.
All right.
So you mean all it was a number put in the wrong place? Am I correct?
Well,
When you say misaligned, what exactly are you saying?
if you look at the proposed motion, you'll see that it's code section, way it's in our code, the city code is 58.13320. And it should have been, the correct code section citation should have been 58.13220. So we're deleting a 3 and adding a 2.
Okay, okay,
And then the same thing happens
okay.
in section 27-55. We're deleting a 3 and adding a 2. That's all we're doing.
Okay.
All right, so the motion is on here. do we need to read it as that motion?
I move that, I move, will you read it?
No,
So let you read it.
you've already read it.
I move that Franklin City Council adopt ordinance number 2017-06 to correct City Code Section 27-54A by amending the reference to Virginia Code Section 58.1-3320 to refer to Virginia Code Section 58.1-3220 and to correct City Code Section 27-55A by amending the reference to Virginia Code Section 58.1-3321 to refer to Virginia Code Section 58.1-3221.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
A motion in 2 seconds, okay.
I
Any
do
discussion?
have one comment. Can you just tell us what the two sections refer to so I know what
Right,
we're
right,
changing?
right.
Yeah.
Well,
I know we're not changing.
the
it,
code
we just refer
section, the code section 58.13320 has absolutely nothing to do with the code for rehabilitation and demolition.
That's what
This-
the other
this-
two
this-
have to do with rehabilitation and demolition.
Right, this is a tax code that allows for the abatement of taxes. It's similar to derelict structures, but this has been on our books since at least 2003. And in doing work on the derelict structure ordinance, we recognize that this ordinance, for all that period of time, had the wrong numbers in it, and we're just trying to correct the numbers. That's all we're doing.
All right. So we have a motion and we have a second. All those in favor signify by aye. Nays have the same opportunity.
Aye.
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 And aye. That motion carries. I'm not going to read it, okay? Motion carries.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay. Now we have city manager's report.
Yes, I sent out a written report to council with several items. I won't reiterate all of those, but just for the information, I was reported last week to me that the Charles Street Gym project contractor had completed their work and the school activities had begun in the facility. I've since had an update on that, and we'll be following up further with the schools, but that was the report I received last week. Noted in the agenda that on the January 22nd meeting on the upcoming items, the police department will be here to give a report, and they can address the concern raised at the last meeting regarding crime statistics and youth. I appreciate the feedback I received the last meeting on the priority template. I'm working on further updating that over the next several weeks and plan to do that on a monthly basis to the council at one of your regular meetings. Concerning the homeless question, I did want to comment further on this since it was brought up again tonight it was already in my agenda package because it was raised at a previous meeting by the same citizen. I've sought the input of the department heads. Department of Social Service reports that 2 individuals visited the department this fiscal year indicating they were homeless and needed assistance. Both were advised of available facilities for this area in Suffolk, and they pursued those referral options. Police Department reported no recent homeless individuals. There was one in the warmer months earlier in the last year, but that person apparently has moved on. They were spending the night in a vehicle at Walmart with permission of the property owners, and then spent the day in various public facilities, in parking lots and so forth. But that person has moved out of Franklin, apparently, relocated out of Franklin. Community Development Department provided significant information, and it's available. If anyone's interested, the department can point them to the right locations and websites to receive the documents that are involved. But the city's been a part of the Western Tidewater Home Consortium for a number of years. That includes Franklin, Suffolk, Isle of Wight, and Southampton County. A 5-year consolidated plan was developed and adopted that went into effect in 2015, and it goes through 2020. Mr. Goodwin can answer any detailed questions on this as you desire at any time. But this plan was developed with local citizen input and included elements focused on homelessness and assistance programs for those at risk of becoming homeless. This detailed plan is published and again available for review. Obviously, the city, as part of this effort, has been actively involved in the process. Of course, challenges persist, especially available funding to implement some of the identified strategies. The nomadic nature of the homeless population in this region is well documented, like statewide and national trends. That makes it a challenge, especially when many of the affected individuals choose to retain their lifestyle choices even when alternatives are available. One of the success stories was a regional effort was undertaken by all the Hampton Roads area a few years ago. We had presentations at this city council meeting since I've been in Franklin to construct regional facilities specifically for the homeless. City Council, again, was briefed on that. City, as a member of the Western Tidewater Home Consortium, is represented in the Southeastern Virginia Homeless Coalition, which conducts an annual point-in-time count of the number of homeless in Norfolk, Chesapeake, Suffolk, Franklin, Isle of Wight County, and Southampton County. This is required by the U.S. Department of HUD for any grant processes which provide federal funding. The counts in recent, just a few years back when the grant application was submitted, were showing in the neighborhood of 650 individuals over a 2-year period. In the whole region, a number of groups came together to request funds to establish regional shelter facilities, as noted, for emergency and transitional housing. Based upon the survey results for our area, the facility was located in Suffolk. That effort has been realized, and that is where the DSS refers individuals. The City of Franklin, as a member, received an allocation of 2 units at this facility based upon survey data of the number of folks who were identified. Not surprisingly, the bulk are identified are located within the urban areas of the region and are assisted by the resources available to those jurisdictions. I believe that covers the question, and I just wanted to share that detail with the public so that they're aware that Franklin has been participating on a regional basis. Obviously, for 2 individuals, on average, you could not house and justify the operation of a facility here, but these folks, again, move around a lot, and the referrals had no problem going to a facility in another jurisdiction, and they're available tonight for anyone as the colder temperatures, as noted, are upon us. It's not an issue, and hopefully all those folks will seek it out, anyone who is in that position. And we'll certainly assist them through DSS or through Community Development Department if they need help.
Do you have a number?
I don't, but Donald, of what, the consortium?
My concern is, I know there's a individual who hangs out in a public building every day. And I've approached them, do you need some help? And they say they don't need no help, but it's obviously this person has nowhere to go. They're homeless. So I'm asking, is there a number I can offer them that they can call the people if they are homeless? And
Department of Social Service. They can call the Franklin Department of Social Service any day, and they will assist them.
And is there anything we do if we come upon somebody? Because as you said, with their lifestyles, sometimes they may not want help, whatever. But do we just leave them and walk over them? For instance, if you came down here every day and there was somebody sitting on his couch in our lobby, it's a public building. They could stay there, I guess, till 5 o'clock. But you would walk past them every day, seeing them there, knowing that they are starting to have their little bags with them and everything. What do we do? Do we approach them and say, you're loitering? Do we say you can't be here? What is your advice for us to do if we come across somebody that we feel as though is homeless?
Refer them to the Department of Social Services for the City of Franklin.
So we'll tell them, here, you need to call these people.
Let the professionals handle it.
And if they don't call the people?
Very little we can do unless there is an issue. Now, the police department encounters individuals all the time. They already know to do that. The Department of Social Service, anyone inquiring can come through Community Development, and if need be, they can be referred to the regional resources. But the Department of Social Services are the professionals trained to handle those kind of
So if somebody's homeless, call the police?
No, first the call should be the Department of Social Service.
I tried to get the guy I asked him, he needs some help, and he was like, no, he's okay. But yet he's right back there every day.
I have a question. It's 5 after 9, scenario, 5 after 9. I find 10 homeless people in the city of Franklin. Instruct me, what do I do?
Good question.
'Cause I don't know
Yeah,
what to do.
those facilities in Suffolk are, I assume have some ability staffing there 24/7. I don't personally know those numbers, but we can provide those through Department of Community Development. But after hours, that would be the start. But you can go through the Department of Social Service with true emergencies, and they have people on call.
They have a number that I can contact them now?
He's saying get with Donald.
We'll be glad to provide you a number. Yes, sir. For after-hours emergency, they can go through the city's 911 center for a non-emergency, and I counter emergency, non-emergency number for a call of this nature, and they'll direct you to the on-call contacts for the different departments.
Okay, why I was asking, not trying to put you on the spot, but in other cities, and I'm not calling any city's name, if that happens at this time period, there are numbers, there are people you can contact to get individuals to the shelter. Because I've done that before.
Well, and certainly we can look at that, but the city doesn't operate the shelter. They would, and we don't provide transportation.
But we have 2 seats, you said, two
units.
slots.
2 units.
Is that like 2 beds available for 2 people
I guess it
from
depends
Franklin?
on whether it's a family or
I'll do
individuals.
that. I've done it. Yeah.
All right.
So, Mr. Mayor, are we any closer, or maybe you can put it in language I can understand, are we any closer to being able to answer that citizen what we're doing, or are we doing, and what we're doing for the homeless?
Yeah, I
With
think
the
you
chart-
just,
With the chart that we have.
I think you just heard it.
Yeah, I just gave you a report on what
Okay.
the departments are doing and their experience this year.
That's cool, I'll refer them to report.
It is a referral.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Martin, in yours? I know you got a couple other things.
Just, I'm pleased to report that we did receive our state approved groundwater withdrawal permit approved by the State Water Control Board last week. This brings to culmination many years of effort, and I appreciate the council's guidance and support during that process, and the staff's efforts and hard work to realize this goal. And it's good to have a permit once again and operating within the guidelines of that permit.
Good. That's a good piece of work to get that done, so let's hope we don't have to worry about that for, what, 10 more years, is that right?
At least 10, unless we make some modifications during that period, which we have the opportunity and the right to do if more need is there than the current permit allows for.
All right. Anybody have any questions for?
I think you missed about his health plan.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I miss that one? I apologize. At the next meeting, as indicated on the your agenda, we will be giving you feedback on the local choice health plan. The current plan we have, hopefully we'll have the proposed or anticipated rate changes, if any, for the next fiscal year. In comparison this year, we will have a new state local option health plan that'll be this mirrors closely the state employee plan, and we will have the details of that. So, and particularly the financial cost comparison between the two plans. The only catch is the new state plan has to have a commitment that you're going to go with them for the next 3 years by January 15th if you're going to participate next fiscal year, which begins July 1. That's tricky, the timing's tough, but they've got to have a minimum number of communities, 5,000 employees, and 10,000 covered individuals, or the plan will not be offered, and it's not likely the state will offer it again if this plan falls through. So it's a lot of communities are grappling with this right now, and we're going to do our best to compare the details. And if we can't make a decision on the 8th, sometime before the 15th, we will have to, if we're going to participate. If not, we'll be faced with keeping our local choice plan another year, and then we can consider whether we want to go into the state plan if it exists, if enough people participate.
So we have to make a decision by when?
January 15th of
January
18.
15th, okay. And this plan is more economical than the one that?
Well, that's what the comparison will be. We don't have the current projection for the new rates for our current plan yet.
Okay.
We hope to have them. The state's working hard to get them from the local choice plan before we meet in January. If we don't have that, it's going to be really tough. All we can go by is what the rates were this year and compare them to the new rates and make an informed decision on whether we want to take a leap of faith.
Now, but shouldn't the actuaries have those rates already?
Not yet. No, see, it doesn't go into effect in July. We normally wouldn't get them till in January. But they're pushing them to get them to us in time to make a decision before the 15th of January. So
Okay,
I'm hopeful they're going to come out before the end of this month.
great, great.
But-
Hopefully.
They don't even have a projection as to what increase they're looking at?
Well, the new plan has numbers, hard numbers, and then they tell us what the caps will be on increases going forward to some degree, and that. We have that. What we don't have is our current carry of what,
They don't even have a guess at what percentage is going on.
they haven't offered one yet.
3 months ago for mine.
Well, see, that's the one issue with the local choice plan that concerns us right now. It's unit by unit. So we're rated individually, and our increase may be 5%, and Southampton County's may be 0. Or the school divisions may be 10%, and ours 0. It's unit by unit, and we have not received ours, but everybody's in the same boat. And on the conference call we had earlier in the last few days, or last week, they told us that they know we've got to have that information to make an informed decision, so they're pushing the local choice to offer it. But the state's behind both plans to some degree, so we hope we'll have that.
So they try to make an intelligent decision.
You're right.
They don't even have the information.
It's risky. It's risky.
That's right.
I mean, I think it's safe to say our current rates aren't going to go down.
No, they're not going down.
So all I can show you is what our current rates are, what the new rate, this new plan, and then if we have the information on how much it's going up, then we can make an informed
What
decision.
did our current plan go up last year? Do you remember?
It was 7 or 8, if I remember. Was it? Oh, it was 10 last year. The years run together, so 10% last year.
10.3.
And year before that, the last several years, it's gone up every year, but we haven't been hit. That was the first year with a double digit, I think, in about 3 or 4 years. But the good news about the new plan is it's rated statewide, so everybody's experience is sort of meshed together. So that's a big advantage to a small unit like ours. But we got to have enough units to get in to create the plan, or it doesn't work.
How many units does it take to get in?
Enough to generate 5,000 covered employees and 10,000 members, which would be family and everybody.
Okay, yeah, that's,
So you can do the math. That would
Yeah.
take 20, whatever it is, of ours is less than 200 covered, so ever how many units our size. But if you get a few large ones, but that's the rub, some of them are self-insured, so it's going to be, and it's school divisions, cities, counties, everybody.
well, the
So
good thing about it is if it happens, and the rates are good, then the families can put, they can put their total family on instead of just themselves and looking for another plan.
that would be our hope, is it will be more competitive going in the longer term.
Right.
And I do think it will be more stable in terms of our individual rating, but again, as the Vice Mayor pointed out, we've got to just make a business decision. Is that worth a higher premium potentially the first year than what we saw last year and next year? Because it's big money.
Yes, it is. And we need the rates in order to do that. It's going to be difficult without that.
Well, I'll keep
Okay.
you informed, but I hope to have them in advance of our January the 8th meeting. If not, we may need a work session or a separate call meeting to make a decision.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Anything else?
That's all.
Okay, council staff reports on boards and commissions. Anybody have anything?
The only thing I have, last meeting it was reported that the jail was going to, had a offer to sell the property at the corner of the jailhouse, and that fell through. So that's not going to be taking place.
Okay, good. Anybody have anything else? HR TAC, HR TPO coming up on Thursday. We'll be doing that. I'm sorry we had to cancel the parade on Friday. I think it was based on the weather and understanding that it was an event more for children than it is for adults. I think it was the prudent thing to do and the right call. I'm sorry about everybody on the committee who had to work so hard to organize it, and then for all those people who built and put together floats that weren't able to display them. So anyway, I'm sorry that had to happen, but it was the right call.
Yes.
So
Yes.
thank everybody for their work on that. Anybody else have anything?
I just want to say, we had an opportunity to meet with our new representative from the 64th District, Ms. Emily Brewer. The mayor and myself met with the schools. I went to the high school. I think you went to the elementary school, Mr. Mayor. And that was very supportive of her to come down and to our schools.
All right. All right, I need a motion to go into closed session, but before we do, I want to pass along not only happy holidays to all of my members of council, but also to the citizens. Have you a very blessed and happy holidays.
Sorry, let's sing together. Happy holidays.
And we will see you next year.
One thing I didn't mention is that I welcome the Veritan Club's district meeting, Holland District meeting, that they held at the Workforce Center on Saturday morning. And they had a good long meeting. I sat there and part of it, and listened to them, so it was fun.
Yeah. Well, thank you for pinch hitting for me on that one. I appreciate it. All right, do I have a motion to go into closed session?
I move that the Franklin City Council meet in closed session to discuss appointments to boards and commissions and to consult with legal counsel regarding specific legal matters and to receive legal advice from the city attorney pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2